Should we start this episode with some breath, Zach?
Yeah, we should.
Okay. How do we do it?
So we're going to take charged breaths into your upper chest.
Okay.
Through your mouth, soft on the exhale.
Okay.
Real easy. We're just going to do 5. Into your upper
Both
chest.
feet planted? Or?
Both feet planted. Grounding is as important as the breaths.
Got
Soft on the exhale. As you breathe, use your eyes. Look around the room.
Wait, we do eyes closed?
Eyes open.
Eyes
and then
open.
we're going to close our eyes.
In through your nose, out through your mouth.
In through your mouth, out through your mouth.
Got it.
Oh, out, okay. Mouth to mouth.
Mouth to mouth.
Charged breaths.
Got it.
Soft on the exhale.
Got
5. Ready? One more. Everyone, close your eyes. Take a second. Take a second. Take your awareness to your body. Make a connection to that aliveness. Allow that aliveness to settle within yourself. Take a couple normal breaths into wherever you experience that aliveness. In this moment, pay attention to anything that takes you away, any thoughts, any worries, and just bring yourself back to the physical experience of aliveness. And whenever you're ready, bring yourself back into the room. Use your eyes, look around the room, make a connection with everyone else in the room.
So see, I've done this a bunch before, and I always trip out. So I always get anxious, and then like you say, bring yourself to the aliveness. The aliveness is extreme lightheadedness. Would that be considered aliveness?
I would say the extreme lightheadedness is how you survive the intensity of the aliveness.
Okay, so then you said pay attention to the thoughts. Now I'm thinking, fuck, I got to start this episode good, and now here's more anxiety.
Yes. So what do you experience in your body?
I fucking feel tightness in my damn
Take
chest.
a breath into that. Everyone, take a breath. The way to truly make progress in this world is to do it through your body experience. We can have all the thoughts we want, and those are important to a degree for sure.
Okay.
But they do not matter if we do not also connect to the body experience of aliveness.
And so we're going to talk a lot about that, but what I want to bring up is now that we've begun, our guest today, Damage Done Podcast, Zak Poyo. And what is the license? You're a therapist, but there's a certain license, and it's only important because we'll get in more of 12-step type of self-improvement versus therapeutic type of self-improvement to contrast that. What's the license you said?
So my license is licensed professional clinical counselor.
Got it. Perfect.
But I'm most proud of, I did a post-grad certification for Integrative Body Psychotherapy.
Integrative Body Psychotherapy.
What does that mean in layman's terms? Because
there's humans that won't know that.
I don't even know what that means.
For sure.
It sounds
so
impressive.
which piece? The
integrative.
The piece that you're most proud of.
Yeah.
So what that means, so there was this dude, right, who like came up in the world of therapy in like the 60s, 70s under like the Gestalt, so the body therapies.
Okay.
And so he started as a dentist, and he was like, oh, I can't do what I need to do to fix the actual problems in the mouth, because he saw how the holding patterns of the body affected the mouth. So he was like, okay, so I need to figure out what actually solves the problem. So then he went into the body therapy world. And so he essentially created his own body therapy under the Gestalt name, and he created an institute in Venice, the Integrative Body Psychotherapy.
Venice, California, or Italy?
California.
Okay, I just
California.
want to know where this started from.
Fair. And so it's essentially this kind of therapy that I think is truly amazing. It's truly efficient. It gets you to where you need to go quickly. But for whatever reason, he kept it close to his chest. And I got very lucky in my life because I fell into this because my best friend's mom was a therapist who taught at this institute. And
Got it.
Yeah, and so then I needed help in my life, and she pointed me in the direction of this therapist who was in that world.
And I just want to pause for a second because I believe your therapy is like revolutionary, right? I call it revolutionary because it did something for me that I've never got through other therapy. But you just mentioned something that this guy that started it kept it close to the vest. Not a lot of people know about it. So to give some more context to what you're saying is most of the methods are thought-based process, like CBT, mindfulness, CBT. This is not that.
For sure. So
correct?
yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I just want to make sure that people understand that, and I have a full understanding.
Yeah, I would say it has some of those skills for sure.
Absolutely.
But it is not the crux of it.
It's not only that. And then you're saying like it's more about getting back to yourself, which is not only changing thought processes, it's experiencing body, right? And
Yes.
that's what you're most proud of, because now you have understood that, you work in that, and you change
Yes.
people's lives through that. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say.
Got
You
it.
know, they say that in order to make real change within yourself, you need to both have the cognitive understanding, but you also need to have the physical experience of change.
Got it. And the physical experience of change, we started with breaths. Why did we start with breaths?
We started with breaths. We started with breaths because breaths do a few things for us. Those breaths, charged breaths, build aliveness within your body. So it like acts as a magnifying glass for yourself, right? It's a lot easier for you to get in touch with what's actually going on. Mason, like you said, oh, now I feel some crisis in my body. Good. So now that's the doorway in to how you need to show up for yourself.
And crisis in my body is me, my like insecurities coming up, like thinking like, fuck, I got to start this show in the proper manner.
For me, it was opposite. I felt completely calm. I'm the type of guy, though, too, I do things so quickly that if my body didn't autonomously breathe itself, I would probably forget to breathe, you know, like cheek chalk, you know that saying, cheek chalk, everything's so quick. But when I've done breathing, whether it's breath of fire or whatever, I feel connected. I feel a little lighter. But I did have, I guess the charge was more like in my chest and in my heart.
Yes.
But I was very calm doing it. You know, it's interesting how I'm sure everyone will have a different experience because we all have, you know, we feel things differently in the body. But
for sure. And the
wanted
goal
to
is
just say that.
Yeah, the goal is to get to a place of connection, right?
Okay. Goal is to get to a place of connection. This is what I want to talk about. So you talk about steps out of fragmentation, and this is a good way to help people heal themselves, correct?
Yes.
And obviously I can't communicate that message as well as you do. And so kind of explain to people, let's talk about steps out of fragmentation to get yourself more connected, and let's try to package this so we can make sure it's useful to as many people as possible.
Yeah, fair.
What is fragmentation? Let's start
so
there.
That's kind of where I wanted to start.
Yeah.
You know, so you are either connected to your sense of self or you're disconnected.
Got it.
You're either connected to your sense of self or you're disconnected. How everyone exists in this world, this is where you have to continually think to yourself, am I connected or am I disconnected?
And what's really sense of self? I mean, I think I can kind of understand, but like I want to hear how you explain it. Like, what is sense of self?
So my favorite thing, one of my favorite things, maybe my favorite thing. We'll go with my favorite thing.
Okay.
My favorite thing in this world is to see how people have a relationship to the aliveness in their body. That is the relationship that they have with themselves.
And can aliveness be people with anxiety? Like I feel
100%.
I feel anxiety.
Yes. So that just speaks to your relationship with yourself. What is anxiety? Anxiety is your body's way of doing this to the aliveness as a means to protect yourself from that level of intensity. And so if you sit there and go, oh my gosh, this anxiety, it's so bad, it's so bad, it's so bad, essentially what you're doing is punching yourself in the face.
Really?
So it is imperative to build a relationship with that anxiety as if it was a child, as if it was a little child, so that you can teach your body to navigate levels of energy differently.
Are you saying to like, in the way to do that is to make the anxiety an objective thing? Because you're saying treat it like it's a child. Because that's a hard thing for people to like, what you're trying to tell me to deal with my anxiety?
Oh,
like, what are you
why?
saying
Why
to me
is
right
it a
now?
hard thing? Why?
You've taught me that it's really not a hard thing. It's difficult at first because it's so foreign and it's so new and it's so different.
Yes.
And, it benefited me because I was in a mental state of wanting to like do what it takes to like make changes. But there's a lot of people that are like crippled by like fears of like other people's thoughts that create like a big anxiety for me would be like not doing things because I'm so concerned about like how people are going to react or what I think people are going to think, and I start being crippled by anxiety, right?
Yes.
And so then you're going to tell me to like deal with that shit. How
for sure.
How do I do that?
You're right. It's this world makes it difficult for us to have a relationship with our anxiety as one in which you support it and show up with love.
Uh-huh.
Right? So
look at your anxiety as a good thing, essentially.
look at your anxiety as a good thing. Look at your anxiety as yourself, as, you know, if the aliveness within yourself was an iceberg in the water,
Okay.
something in your life is happening that is so intense that you can't help but experience the aliveness in your body. Oh, what a goddamn blessing. What a goddamn blessing.
Yeah, you always tell me that. All these issues I have, you're like, Mason, what a wonderful opportunity. I'd be like, what the fuck
Yes.
you mean it's a wonderful opportunity? What are you talking about?
Yes.
Like, because, and I think what you brought up to me is like, you're labeling things as good and bad. And we talked about this before this. And I think a lot, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm going to say this a lot because sometimes I think I'm right, but I could always be wrong, is a way to make that anxiety objective is to not label it as bad, because I would go around and being like, it's bad to have anxiety, so let me take a bunch of the Xanax or something like that, because then I can operate good. I can talk to all these girls, I can show up to this job interview, I can do all these things I fucking want to do. But really it's my programming, my I guess your central nervous system, the way I program myself, and the way I think about things, it never grew up. It was kind of a juvenile way of dealing with things.
I want to say something too. Sorry to interrupt.
No, fucking interrupt.
I love what you said, and I think it's great. But I'm the type of guy too, like real estate, right? I got to sell this building. I got fucking taxes due.
Yes.
How am I going to get ahead? Is this girl texting me back? Is she not texting me back? Does she like me? How's my mom doing? How's my grandma doing during this pandemic, because she's in a nursing home and has early set? Like, I'm just saying, that's just my small world with a million other things that I could talk for hours about.
Yes.
How am I going to separate everything that's going on in my head? Like I said, like quick, cheek shock, a million miles an hour, my mind works. How am I going to separate that into what you just said?
Yeah.
Because if I haven't already had some sort of framework to kind of work on myself, that's, I think for me, if let's just say 4 years ago, before I got sober and did some work, I feel like that would be virtually impossible.
Yeah. So what I would say is, right, I want to talk about boundaries, but I don't know, I'll just do it. Boundaries, right? So what are boundaries? We can have ideas of boundaries as a thing within ourselves. This is what I want. This is not what I want. This is what I want. This is not what I want.
Okay.
But what are boundaries really? Boundaries are really the experience in your body of the separation between you and another human being. Shane, if I were to come and sit on your lap, you would experience something within yourself. Probably, please move back. And so I would move back to a certain degree, and all of a sudden, you would feel okay. So I'm going to connect that to what you just said. So you just asked me, you said, Zach, you said all this about anxiety, but look at all this evidence I have in my life of things that I should be anxious about. I mean, you didn't necessarily say that, but is that fair?
Well, he's more the anxious guy. I do get anxious too, but I'm just saying, I have so much stuff going on, and I'm like,
stress,
phones
stress.
constantly ringing, people calling all the time. Like, I don't have time to be like, let's do some charged breaths and recenter and go. And maybe I should implement that. I'm not, because I just had a pretty profound effect doing it before when we just started. But in actuality, am I going to do that?
Like, in that moment, I want to ask you, Shane, what do you experience in your body? Like, think about what you just said to me, right? You essentially just said to me, you brought the strength you got, and I know you got strength. You brought the strength to the table and said, man, I don't even know. I don't even know if I'm going to do that. I would say, Shane, you should do that, and you could definitely do that, and it is imperative for you to separate yourself from the experience of all these other things in the world. But I want to add one more thing. Shane, I would say, whether you know it or not, the reason you have that strong wall, if I may, that comes up has to do with the fear of abandonment underneath. You've learned how to get love in your life. And so then this dude, Zach, comes in, got a dog on my lap, and I'm like, yo, motherfuckers, let's take a breath. And whether you know it or not, it hits something inside yourself of this really old abandonment.
So it's like I'm protecting myself, is what you're saying.
And so there's this thing that comes up that says, yo, bro, I ain't going to do that. But if you give me something cognitive, maybe I can hold on to that. But what I want to say is, fuck that shit, bro. You can do it. You could do it. I know it's scary, but you could do it. Does that make sense what I say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could, rebuttal. If that's the correct word, I think. But I
have a rebuke.
A rebuke.
Have a rebuke. So, I mean, I think one thing I want to say is I think everything you're saying, the type of work. I mean, I had the luxury of like being in treatment and having more time than you had to like practice what he's teaching, right? But I think for me, the fact that I'm able to practice these type of things that he's taught me, right, has made me more efficient in dealing with stress. So like those things are what I was explaining was anxiety, and I think what you were explaining was stress, which I think definitely anxiety can come from. But I think the more that I understood what I was doing while I was working with Zak made me more efficient in dealing with those things and how to deal with those things. Does that make sense? And is that a fair thing to say? It's like, is that how what your method that you teach is most effective? If people do that, then they can be more effective in dealing with stresses.
Yeah, 100%. But I would also say that like my goal is not like the stress is not my ultimate goal, right? It is. We're gonna do that. We'll definitely do that. But my ultimate goal is to heal the injuries of abandonment that came from your life from 0 to 7.
Well, the stress is just a symptom of what you're saying right now.
Yes, 100%.
And a lot of people deal with this issue of abandonment because you've mentioned it a couple of times. I kind of want to give people more context. And again, people, I'm going to keep doing this. What does abandonment look like? It's not just like being left in front of a fire station. What could that look like? You know what I mean?
You're right. So those are like the glamorous kind of abandonments.
Got it.
We as a society can go, ooh, this person, they had this abandonment. And sometimes I don't necessarily want to take away from those. Like those are important to navigate, especially something like adoption. Mm-hmm. Adoption is influential in how a human being shows up and navigates love to such a degree.
It's also very traumatic, that type of abandonment.
So traumatic.
Right.
What's also as traumatic is the small, consistent injuries that babies sustain. The injuries that your mother or primary caregiver has, mm-hmm. And how they aren't able to truly be there in moments with a child, boom, hit the kid, boom, hit the kid. Over and over and over again till the baby develops patterns to protect itself from the consistent injuries that come forth.
And I don't want people to think that this means there's bad abusive parents. Like this can happen with a loving home when you could have everything given to you and the parents only wanted the best for you, correct?
Yes. In fact, I would say it is necessary for us as a species to go through this. I would say we would not have gone as far as we have as a species without this. Because in the injury, we've had to gain strength. We've had to be strong. All of the strength we have in this room, all the strength we have in this city, in the fucking world, is because of those injuries. We developed strength. The reason I'm sitting here with the strength I have is because my mom hurt me.
So you're saying, you're essentially like you're saying traumas are good, or like pain is good.
Yes.
Well, they're good because their motivation to do something different, but you can also say there's a lot of people that have those things that are debilitated by them.
Fair.
And probably, God willing, they will have a time to live the life that everyone is deserving and should live and has the ability and capacity to live.
Yeah.
But a lot of those people probably won't.
So yes, trauma is good. I would say you're right. It is important in saying a sentence like that. It is important to stop and acknowledge how many people have existed on this planet who have been living with the trauma as their entire life, mm-hmm. and then died. And it is a saddening and painful thing for us as human beings to go through. Okay. But I would also say, those small traumas that happen when we are young, they do give us gifts. And unless you can see it or experience it and use those gifts as in a direction of connection within yourself, you will be using those gifts to run away.
And these gifts are, back to the initial question I asked, because I want to circle back to it, that's being part of being fragmented or disconnected from yourself. These type of gifts lead to you being disconnected, right?
These gifts protect us when we get fragmented.
Protect us. Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
So when we get fragmented, we have to integrate survival mechanisms.
And what do people do when they get fragmented? Does that mean they start living in their head? They start making excuses for situations? They start,
So it depends, right? Yeah. You either cut off or you split off.
Okay.
Right?
So explain both of those.
You split off in your head.
Okay.
Right? You think about things, curiosity, fantasizing, worrying, stuff like that.
Got it. That's splitting off.
Splitting off.
That's part of being fragmented.
Yes.
Got it.
Cutting off is more on a body level.
Okay.
Right? You do things on a body level. You use, you eat, you work out to excess.
So that's like people that have drug addiction, alcoholism, shopping, cheating issues, this, that, whatever, gambling issues. Step outside of yourself, disconnect.
Yes.
Got it.
I would also say, like, that could be yoga. That could be meditation. That could be really anything in this world.
Working out or
yes.
even working,
overworking.
Workaholic.
Yes. One of my goals is to have people look at the tools they use, not hold those tools up.
Okay. So then what are the tools? How do you teach them? I know you have something called steps out of fragmentation.
So essentially it's identify, interrupt, contain, calm, repair. So that's the steps.
Okay. So the steps to the fragmentation are as follows.
Yeah. Identify, interrupt, contain, calm, repair. It's interesting, right? Like there's so much in that. In those steps. There's almost a piece of me that just wants to say, for right now, just stop. Just take a breath. Just come back to yourself.
Got it.
Right? You can worry about the repair when we get there. Right? Not that we can't get there right now.
And the repair is what the fragmentation is protecting you from? Is that the repair?
Yes. So my goal is for you to show up for yourself in the way in which those tiny injuries did not show up for yourself. Okay. When you guys go out into the world, you get those same injuries come up all the time. Whether you know it or not, those same exact injuries come up.
Injuries as in the abandonment.
Yes.
Or like feeling inadequate.
Yes.
Things, all those type of things. Or ways that I felt inadequate that I carry with me from being 7, 8, 9, 10 years old.
Yes.
And I just have no fucking idea at 30 that that's really going on.
Yeah. I mean, think of the last person in your life that you were mad at, or the last person that you were worrying about, or the last person that this happened or that happened. A lot of that flavor is just the old stuff.
Got it.
So those are the important things to look at.
Okay. And so keep going through the steps how to get out of fragmentation. I think this is important.
Yeah. So let's all take a breath.
Huh?
Let's all take a breath.
Charge breath?
Charge
breath?
Let's do actually 3 into our upper chest.
Okay.
Soft on the exhale. Take a moment. Use your eyes. Look around the room. Take your awareness to your body. Allow it to settle. If you feel lightheaded from that, name colors and objects.
Yeah, I would do that all the time. And then my insecurities would come out when I wouldn't know a color. And you'd be like, call it whatever fucking color you want to call it.
Yeah.
That's so empowered.
Yeah. So
empowered.
I want to touch on the insecurities for a second.
Perfect.
So because these injuries happened at such an early age in our life, we still had to show up in relationship with our mother, right? Many of us didn't, well, if it happened really young, which it did, we didn't know that there was a difference between us and our mom.
Okay.
Right? And so this injury happens and we go, oh, yeah, this is because I'm bad. You get socked in the face and you go, that makes sense. I'm bad. I did that wrong.
Okay.
And so that happens at such an early age that we develop this survival mechanism. They call it a basic fault. We develop this survival mechanism inside of our body, which is essentially the experience of being bad, of doing something wrong, of not being good enough. We all have slightly different flavors of that theme, but it's something along that theme. And this thing comes up into our world, and because it's so familiar because it happened at such an early age, we have a difficult time seeing the truth. We make it true to ourselves, and then our brain kicks into gear and goes, oh yeah, that makes sense, bro. You fucked up over here. You fucked up over there.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
But the truth is, I'm not bad, and I haven't done anything wrong.
And that's part of one of the mantras that you would tell yourself to self-parent those old injuries, right?
Yes.
And a lot of your work in this, we call it somatic I mean, there was a much bigger word that you used with kind of somatic type of therapy would to be to self-parent yourself.
Yes.
Because that part of ourselves was not parented.
Yes. The goal is to show up for yourself how you were injured.
Got it.
But first you got to understand why you leave.
Why you start thinking those thoughts or trying to
you,
disconnect with whatever, overworking, this, that, whatever.
Yes.
You have to kind of understand that.
And sorry, one more thing. Yeah. And in order to understand that, you have to have a connection to the body. You have to.
And that's through taking breaths, which is why we stopped again, or where we started with taking the breaths, and then we stopped and took the breath, because that's a way to kind of connect with yourself. But one thing that we didn't do, because you said to look around, is, I mean, I guess you did it the first time, but the second time is, again, identifying where you feel it in your body and then breathing through that. That's another place that gets you to a place to be able to identify it, right?
Yeah, so that's another great thing, right? Like, our body holds on to pain. Right?
And pain could literally be anxiety, because people are like, pain, they think it's like my foot hurts. But pain could be like fucking...
I would say it holds on to pain, and then the fucked up thing is, and the crazy thing is that you're, at least for me, speaking my experience, my body won't allow me to relive the pain either, so it's stuck, right?
Yeah.
And it had to take me a long time to reopen.
Yes.
Like, the only way out is in
Yes.
my opinion. So for me, it's like, why do these behaviors keep happening?
Yes.
Okay, not maybe, but I was incapable of differentiating the true from the false for a long time.
Yes.
But then also it's like, well, then how come when I make up my mind to want to do this or stop doing drugs, why am I continuing to do them? Right?
Yeah.
What's really going on here?
Yeah.
Like when my mom is crying, finding, needles and all of this stuff, and I'm swearing to her, and like a serious moment, and if there was a lie detector test there, it'd be like, he's telling the truth, right?
Yeah.
But then 30 minutes later to an hour, I'm doing the exact same thing that I told her that I wasn't doing. I promised her, myself, and probably God at the time that I wasn't going to be doing it, right? So humor me for a minute. Because for me, it was, I had to experience enough pain to surrender, to say, okay, you know what? Shane is out of good ideas. I'm willing to submit to whatever. And believe me, I tried everything. I tried the most expensive treatment centers, nonprofit, whatever, psych wards for detox, everything, But it's until I was finally willing and was beaten up enough by me, calling the shots and doing everything, to just say, okay, fuck it. Like, what do I have to lose?
Yeah. I want to comment on the first thing you said. What a great thing to say. What a great awareness, Shane. What'd you say to me? You go, the body holds on to pain, and I had a difficult time being able to feel it. Yes, what a beautiful thing. Why do you have a difficult time being able to feel it? Because of everything we talked about, how your body protects you from the vulnerability of whatever that was. From the vulnerability of whatever that was. Vulnerability. That is where the dangers of death when we were young came to play. The vulnerability. And so our body acts as a suit of armor. I ain't going there. To protect ourselves. Beautiful. What a beautiful thing to say. And so the other thing you said was really commenting on a few things. Your relationship with your mother. You commented on your relationship with drugs. And I want to say also, it is beautiful to me, those of us who are lucky to have connections with our mothers. I can see by how you do the dance within yourself, how important these people are to you, how important your mother is to you. I can see that. And I just want to comment on that's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, no, my mom's like my rock.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
My queen, I adore her, and she's a remarkable woman, but for me, for 10 years, I literally, my parents were robbed of a decade of their life. There was no social life. It was like, for them, for me, it was fight or flight too for 10 years. Yes. But I'm thinking about what they were going through. There was no social life. There was no happy moments. It was like, which one of my sons is going to die first for a decade?
For sure.
Right? Like how, and then I guess a question, and I'm sure she'll watch it, is like, I'm sure she's got a lot of pain that her body holds on to. and that she needs to deal with appropriately. Because like this is how, at least my mom, Jewish mom, loving mom, like 4 years sober, like that stuff's in the past. I'm so grateful, and like it's beyond us.
Yes.
Right. She finally knows it's real now, because it's not 6 months again or a year. It's a decent amount of time.
Yes.
But there's still unresolved trauma and pain there.
Yeah. So
she needs to come see you.
I'm gonna say something to your mom, and Mama Shane, I love you very much. I do not mean this in a mean way. But I want to say, and I'm going to say this in a dramatic way, I don't care about your mother's internal experience right now. I do not care. Mama Shane, I'm sorry, but I do not care. Right? Shane, you brought some stuff to the table about what's going on with you, and then we get to how your mother could get help. I don't care. It's so wonderful. It's so wonderful, your love for her. But in that is also the need for you to show up for yourself. Also, one more thing. You tell me, look at the pain I put my parents through. Look at the pain I put my parents through. You said a decade of them not having their own life. Shane, I'm not bad. I haven't done anything wrong. I don't care about your parents. I'm sorry, Mama Shane. I'm sorry. I don't care. And this is, I lean into this in a dramatic fashion, because obviously I care about them as human beings, but I lean into this in a dramatic fashion because this is what I need you to understand. I need you to have a dividing line between the love that keeps that dividing line gone, so that you can show up for Shane in different ways. You talked to me about not being able to feel the pain. You want to know why you weren't able to feel the pain? You just explained it to me.
Okay, fair. And that's your therapy, and that's your, that's
fair. Yeah.
But part of my journey is that go back and rectify the wreckage I caused. Because how can I move forward if there's people that are damaged from everything that I've done in the past?
And that's so difficult. I would also say the only reason you did any of that stuff is because the same thing. You want to rectify the damage. Stop doing the same pattern of taking responsibility for other human beings in your life.
I'm not taking responsibility for that, but I caused it. So it's like you're telling me, no, you're the culprit of what happened.
Yes.
But that's like their own problems, and they're gonna need to deal with it in their own way. Where I'm like completely, I wholeheartedly disagree, and I love you and I respect you, but it's like how I can't accept that.
Fair. So two things. One, it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what I say. Who gives a fuck what I have to say? Really? Like, the truth is the truth. It's up to you to show up to really understand the truth. And if this is your truth, it doesn't fucking matter what I say.
No, I for sure, but it does matter what you say.
Well, the truth is the truth. It matters what I say in terms, I would say, if you decide to walk that way,
and I'll tell you
can figure it out for yourself.
I'll tell you why it matters what you say, though, because you have a different way of approaching life and a different viewpoint. So that's why it matters. I can only, like we talked about this earlier, there's reality, right?
Yeah.
There's one reality, but there's a reality that I see the world through my lens and the way that you see the world through your lens. So maybe, and I'm always open to growing, and I know that I'm stubborn and I come off with a strong energy, but I don't know everything.
No, it's great, your energy. This is why, Shane, in this world, you are successful and will continue to be successful. You should thank Mama Shane for that one, too. The reason you got that strength is because her, truly. But I want to say, the reason I said it does not matter what I say is because the truth is the truth, right? Sure. I just want you to walk forward. I just want you to try. I just want you to practice having a boundary with your parents and pay attention to what comes up. If what I say isn't true, you'll figure that out. If what I say is true, you'll figure that out. So in that regard, it doesn't matter what I say. I'm just opening up a door.
So you're saying not what you're saying. What your suggestion is not the ultimate solution, but it's like the means, the avenue to get him to figuring out what the ultimate solution is. Is that correct, or am I off base with my understanding?
I mean, yes. I would say that. Well, I would say this. I would say human beings are simple. Okay. Go around to any work, anyone who does any work. It's the same work. It's the same.
You're talking
work.
about same self-improvement work?
Yes.
Got it.
The same work. It's just different, in my opinion, different levels of efficiency.
Got it.
Right?
So where he got hung up on here is because and this is also true for me, and both of you guys have taught me things that I wouldn't be sitting here with you guys. Like, you guys have changed my life, and I'll always be eternally grateful. But the work I was able to do with you was, I was able to do that because of the work I did with him, right? And the work that changed his life before he started discussing with you was like a 12-step based self-improvement type. And one of the major things is clearing the wreckage of your past and making amends with people, right?
Yes.
And so part of that is a spiritual process, is to take ownership, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't really take it as you telling him not to take ownership. And I don't think that's what you were saying, but I think you were kind of saying it, still walk through it, still take ownership, but don't label yourself as bad. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say. And I would add one more thing to that. Okay. I would say still walk through it. Still show up for the human beings in your life. Take ownership of what happened and what you did in your life. But don't make yourself bad, and pay attention to when you leave yourself. And maybe those things are actually one and the same. Okay. Like, when you leave yourself, you make yourself bad.
So even if you quote unquote did something wrong, you're trying to tell yourself like you're not bad. This is kind of where I would get hung up from time to time. It's like, I did something really fucked up. I did some terrible things to my friends, family, legally, illegally, this, that, whatever.
Yes.
You could literally sit there and like objectively label it as bad. But in a subjective internal sense, you're saying how to deal with it. It's just like, it's not good nor bad, and it makes you more efficient in dealing with that pain when you don't label that.
Yeah, I what I would say to that is, you made a mistake, right?
Okay.
Mistakes happen, and you're going to have to deal with the consequences of those mistakes in life. That's the world. You go outside, you make a mistake, you'll deal with the consequences. But in terms of internal growth, in terms of internal connection to yourself, in terms of healing that stuff, if you use these mistakes in your life as evidence for you being bad, then you were doing the exact thing that caused the mistakes in the first place.
Okay.
But if people out there, or me, let's just talk about me.
Okay.
If we can't even identify that, though.
What is that? What is that? Identify that.
Just the mistakes that we're making. Like, yeah, I can identify it, but if I had the power to change those behaviors, then I wouldn't be doing them. But I can't. That's kind of like my point, is I'm incapable of doing that. I'm incapable. Yes, I know that selling drugs is bad. I get it. Yes. And I know that doing drugs and all of that lifestyle is bad, and I can feel it in my body.
Yes.
But I'm incapable of not acting in that fashion. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I would say if you live in the realm of the behavior, then you will forever be fighting against an ocean that is forever coming.
Okay.
You know, it's sometimes I'll see people and they will they love lists. You know, like I have a lot of people who love lists. They'll make a list and then they'll check the box.
Like a to-do list or a gratitude list or
whatever.
Got it. Okay.
Whatever. They'll make a list.
Sure.
And so in doing that, they're able to like give themselves a momentary like, oh, thank God I did it. See, I'm not bad. I checked this off the list. Or see, I'm not bad. I wrote everything down. But if that is the thing that they're holding on to be okay, then they're missing with the thing they actually need to take care of, which is how they leave themselves and are trying to hold on to the list making. So I would say, again, if you live in the world of behaviors where you have to do things as a means to be okay, in terms of like lists or something outside yourself or whatever it may be, then you are leaving yourself. You are just using that as a crutch to leave yourself. That doesn't mean, obviously this isn't black and white, that doesn't mean that those things can't be bridges for you to get to you. Mm-hmm. But I just want you to look at the tools you're using. Does that make sense what I said?
It does make sense. I mean, essentially, and going back to both methods of self-improvement, whether it's a 12-step based or what you're talking about, the overall message, in my opinion, is to do work internally instead of looking for answers externally that need to be answered internally, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you're saying even things as little as like making lists, if I can, what's it called? I have a blank for words here, but I guess validate your well-being or like how well you're doing. That's an external thing, and it's not something that people look at as bad. People look at it as like, wow, what an efficient, organized person. But that could be someone's method or way of really looking outside of themselves, because really the injury is inside because they feel fucking inadequate or something.
Yes.
Does that make sense? What I said?
For sure, 100%. And
Sick.
you know, it's I don't want to put my mom on blast, so
Put her
I'm
on
not
blast.
going to.
Sorry,
But I'll talk in generals.
Okay.
You know, Mom, I love you. So, so sometimes, you know, human beings can use their brain, the same kind of skills we were talking about, to like imagine things in a beautiful way and hold on to their imagination. And so if you talk to people who have this skill, most people in the world would be like, great, be curious, chase after that. But you're right, it's hard to see in our world how that can just be leaving yourself.
got it.
It is presented in a very nice and shiny way, but doing that over and over again, you teach yourself injury.
Teach yourself injury, and then you deal with things via injury.
Yes.
And it's not the most efficient way to do it.
No.
Because it's really not useful.
It's
And
painful.
And I want to get back. So how many steps did we touch on the states of fragmentation?
It's a good question. Probably.
You got.
We probably went like.
Yeah. We're getting there, but it's all important stuff to give context to like what's going on and whatnot.
Yes.
But I know that there's certain mantras, mantras, tomato, to be able to self-parent yourself.
Yes, there are.
Correct.
Yes.
And so, the third part of that, is it the third or fourth part?
So probably fourth.
Okay.
Fourth.
Got it.
Yeah. So we have in IBP, in the kind of therapy I do, there are healing tones, they call them.
Okay.
First of all, I'm also trying to look for more gangster names. A lot of this stuff.
No,
But
more marketable names.
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
Yeah, it's almost like irritable bowel syndrome. It's close to it.
What was that?
It's close to IBS. That's why I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's all, man. Bad joke. Okay.
So yes, they're feeling tones, right? So there's a difference between mantras and feeling tones, kind of. But there's a difference between mantra and feeling tones. What's the difference? The difference is feeling tones are more about the energy behind the message. If you say, I love you, I want you, you are special to me. It's not what you do, but who you are that I love.
And this is, again, this is like talking to your younger self, because you use inner child. A lot of therapists use inner child, but you use it as well, correct? And this is, again, I always say, is making what you're dealing with objective. So you're literally looking at yourself at the age where those injuries took place, and you're saying this to them because that child at that point in time never heard those things. So you have to figure out which tone, I forgot the word you said, but
Feeling tones. Yeah,
what
feeling
was it?
tones.
Feeling tones works best with that and is the most soothing to that person. If it's Mason at age 11 and it's just like, I see you, I hear you, this and that, whatever, and I was never told that, that's really effing soothing.
Yeah. One thing I want to comment on is like, so I lost it. Never mind.
Okay.
But essentially what I want to say is like, it may be very uncomfortable to give yourself that message.
It's very uncomfortable. It's very new. I mean, I've never did that before. And you said, Mason, look at yourself on the wall and talk to yourself, essentially. I was like, what the fuck are you telling me right now?
Yeah.
But then it was, but once you get to the other side of that discomfort, then you see this is incredible.
I remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
So
Got it.
sorry. So, yes, when you go and get injured in the world right now and you have an experience, like you said, that experience was developed when you were very young. So it is that old injury. Mm-hmm. And so in parallel to that, I just want to comment on how children develop. Okay? Children develop. There's a little baby that comes into this world. The baby doesn't necessarily speak English, but the baby experiences the energy of the humans around them.
Okay.
The baby comes into this world, and the mother, if she's connected to herself, she can show up to the child and say, I love you. The baby understands that in terms of the energy of love being given to him or her. And so now, fast forward to these injuries today, you need to do the same thing for yourself. You need to give yourself the energy that is uncomfortable to give yourself. The energy of love that is uncomfortable to give yourself. The reason it's uncomfortable is because you didn't get it. Discomfort is the growth.
Discomfort is the growth.
Discomfort
Absolutely.
is the growth.
And you start, and these are the.
Enjoy that. Enjoy it.
Emily said off camera she's cringing, but it might be useful for her to listen to this podcast when it's done. again. And so anyways, so yeah, I get the ways to do that is to start actually feeling where that injury is by doing the breathing, right?
Yes.
Then you start identifying that and literally,
Yes.
you know, draw the boundary of what you're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we skipped past the boundary part.
Yeah.
I mean, you started explaining what boundaries were,
Yes.
but there's ways, and I want people to know, like, when Zak's talking to us, he's also talking to you guys. We're just the example of, like, what to do or, like, what's going on.
Yeah.
It's just not only our story. Like, this is, like, it's applicable.
Should I like talk to humans?
You can do whatever you want.
Hello, humans out there.
I want to propose and ask something, right?
Please.
Okay, so everything going on in the world, right?
Yes.
We're in a pandemic. People's money is probably starting to run out.
Yes. Yes.
A lot of uncertainty.
Yes.
Terrifying. It is, but it's also a time to pause and reflect. But I've tapped into that, so I'm fearful a little bit, but not really. Like,
good,
I know
enjoy
that I'm
that.
okay. I'm fine.
Huh.
You know,
I know you are. I know you are.
But so, other people out there, what's something practical that they can do that can bring them some sort of relief when their mind is telling them something that is not true, right? But
Yeah.
you know, we operate with, everyone has their own operating system, I like to think, right? And like you said, completely different school of thought than me, but it's very apparent. I'm thinking about everything that you're saying. Everyone gets fragmented along the way. So what are some practical things for somebody to do in light of everything going on? They're dissatisfied in life. Maybe they're restless, irritable, anxious, depressed, have addiction.
Not anxious, but yeah.
You know, like what are some things to do and implement in somebody's life today that could have some, changing results to benefit? And
yeah. Well, first I want to comment on what's happening in the world, I guess. It is a saddening and scary time in this world. We, I also want to say, and exciting. We in the society that we lived, we're walking around like, oh, this is just how things are, and all of a sudden this grenade got dropped in the middle, and now we're like, oh, damn. The structures for which we know are paper thin. Mm-hmm. My life could change in an instant. Everyone is experiencing things right now. And I want to say, you ask me what is something someone can do. I want to say, come back to your body and take note of the experience of that aliveness. If you can show up for that aliveness, then how you show up for yourself in all of the chaos of the world becomes of strength. If this aliveness, you allow it to continue to be of disconnection, then you are going to just make your shit attached to the chaos of the world. So I would say, in short, ask yourself, what do I experience in your body? Everyone, what do you experience in your body right now? What do you experience in your body? What do you experience in your body?
Just non-stop asking.
What do you experience in your body?
Non-stop asking that. Like, literally ask yourself that.
Yes.
It's important to do that.
Yes. Your answer to that question speaks to your relationship with yourself. Your answer to that question speaks to your relationship with yourself. The only thing that matters is your relationship with yourself. You can't have a real relationship with anyone or anyone else on this planet if you have left yourself. It is not a real relationship. It is not of depth. It is of shallow holding on for abandonment's sake. What do you experience in your body? Take a breath, sorry.
I mean, I feel quite calm.
Where?
In the chest, where I felt quite tense earlier.
Now show up for that with love. Show up for that with love. You know, it may sound so weird. And like, if you ask me, yo, Zak, people are going to think you're spiritual. Yo, Zak, people are going to think you're hippie. Yo, Zak, in what you do in life, it's going to like make you look in that or be judged in that way. I would say that's wild. That's wild.
Like bullshit?
What?
That's bullshit?
I mean, not really. I guess if that's what people want to call it now, that's what they want to call it.
Fair enough.
You know, but the only reason I got to this point where people call that is because I just followed myself down. I just followed myself. I paid attention to pain and stayed with myself. And now people say I'm spiritual. I'm saying I just do the work. You can call it whatever you want. I just do the work.
So there's a correlation there with me as well. Is there's action again that needs to be taken.
Yes, there is.
And it seems, I know that there's a lot of big words and all of that, but it seems like it's a pretty practical thing to do to implement it into your life.
Oh, simple.
It really
like the breathing is a big effing deal to actually help fix what's going on.
Doesn't cost money, and
unless you go see Zach.
Yeah,
Zach will take you in through deeper.
Yeah, deeper. This
is just
yeah.
Preview.
Yeah. Come on down.
Nice.
I will say that there is a calming component to it, and by nature, I'm not really a calm person. I mean, on the outside, I exude that I'm calm and I'm collected and all of those things, but a lot of the time, internally, it's just.
Yeah. And I think you are lucky in many ways because that internal thing is of strength. Continue to build a relationship with that. I think I've said this a few times to you today.
Yeah.
That's that is your boat in this world of Shane. Enjoy that, bro. Again, thank you, Mama Shane.
Thank you, Mama Shane. Another important thing that we've touched on, and I think it's important to touch on now, are the because it's ways of getting outside of yourself, are agency lies. But I'm trying to find a way to explain what those are, and then to how to get through and get out of them. And namely, I guess one of the agency lies, and I talked to Shane about this, but it's like being responsible for other people's well-being, because a lot of people that I know right now are taking responsibility for other people's well-beings because they're having a tough time themselves. And it's an interesting thing because it's a noble thing to want to be caring for someone or be nice and kind.
Yes.
And what's your agency mantra for that? And then maybe work backwards on what an agency lie is.
Yes.
But explain that.
Yeah. So first I would say, when I take responsibility for the well-being of others, I invade and cripple them. I undermine those I try to fix as well as myself. Take a breath. When I take responsibility for the well-being of others, I invade and cripple them. I undermine those I try to fix as well as myself. And I want to say one more thing. Within yourself, on a body level, you know the difference between the things you do out of love and the things you do out of agency.
And what's agency?
Agency is when we're babies.
Okay.
We learn to protect ourselves in certain ways. Injuries fall upon a continuum.
So agency is essentially a way to protect yourself from being vulnerable. No?
Yes.
Okay.
So injuries fall upon a continuum, right? Either our parent is inundating and suffocating emotionally, or our parent is a little bit gone. Okay. Abandonment. Inundation or abandonment. Got it. So when our parent is a little more reserved, sometimes we can develop agency where we do things to take care of them so that we get the love that they can provide us.
And this probably shows up a lot. You said it starts with the parenting as young, but it probably shows up in people's romantic relationships, correct?
I mean, this is...
Especially right. And
yes, it's developed when we're young, but then how you know how to protect yourself in going forward, this becomes... in other ways, character style, which is the other side of the coin, is difficult. But this is of leaving too. But this, in some regard, is more difficult. Yeah. And I would only say that, I don't know if that's necessarily true or fair for me to say, but I would say it's able to camouflage itself more. I think you can find a lot of healers in this world, of course, who practice this. They leave themselves. And so sometimes, without them knowing, they try and take care of their client in a way that is of leaving themselves. And by them leaving themselves, they're actually injuring the client.
So that's what you mean. When I take responsibility for others, that cripples myself as well as the others I try to help, right? Correct? Yes. So again, it's a noble thing. It's camouflage as something noble, and it might very well be. But underneath that all, you're actually crippling them. And the solution to that is essentially really working on yourself, because through action and your behavior and from a genuine place, it's not coming from the agency, you actually do help them.
Yes.
It's like being selfish to be selfless, essentially.
Yes, exactly. And I'm not saying don't help them. I'm not saying, fuck your mom. Or
There's a different way to get there.
Exactly.
And the way that most people use to get there is actually not having the effect that it wants.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. And so steps out of agencies, other agency lives, is there more that you wanted to add to on like that particular one? I just thought that one was important to have a quick understanding of.
I mean, there's a nice one. There's a nice one that goes, I will not abandon myself when I most need my own support. Everyone take a breath. And I want you to say that to yourself. I will not abandon myself when I most need my own support. And I want you to connect to the experience in your body of saying that.
And that's a good thing to say, like when you're like actually like living in fear or anxiety, you feel like depressed. Like this is important to not abandon yourself and actually breathe into that and like feel whatever you're feeling. If you feel tense in your neck, you feel something in the pit of your stomach, which are also what you've coined as being alive, feelings of aliveness.
Yes.
Aliveness isn't always like these amazing ecstatic feelings where I feel like you're high. It's also things that people relate to as bad, but they're not essentially bad, correct?
Yes, 100%.
And so it's important, and this is more going back to what Shane was saying, something that's more practical and a day-to-day thing is when you feel that way, it's literally telling yourself that and believing it.
Yes.
Like, I will not abandon myself when I need you most, right?
And yes, and I would also say like paying attention to like the difficulties of how you don't stay with yourself, right? Like I could give you all the tools in the world.
Okay.
But unless you see the thing that stops you from showing up for yourself, then it doesn't really matter. Then it's just this tool that comes and goes. But I want you to see how you leave yourself and show up for yourself and be able to put that down.
And you could show that, like, it could be like, okay, every time I feel like, instead of telling myself I won't abandon myself, usually I end up scrolling endlessly through Instagram or writing a list or judging someone, or is that what you mean by that? I'm trying to make it like on such like a micro level here, because it's important for people to understand that shit. Because for me, when I understand something small, or it's either one way, it's like a super macro or super micro, and then I either work forwards or backwards, right?
Yes.
So I just want people to get that, because I'm sure a lot of people can understand it, but this is for the people that may need it more micro.
Yeah. So sorry, what are you asking? You're essentially asking, like,
finding ways that you're leaving yourself, right?
Yes.
And so that could be something as micro as just like instead of showing up for yourself as you suggest, like an actionable way that Shane was bringing up, how to start showing up for yourself, things you tell, breathe through, whatever. How are you going to decipher how you do that, right?
Yes.
So now you have one thing. I'm going to tell myself this. You could see that, but you can compare that to what you usually do, and that could look like something like I'm scrolling through Instagram every time I feel like this, or I'm shopping online more than I do this, or I'm texting other people I shouldn't be texting when I feel this way. You get what I mean?
I do.
Okay.
You know, I want to use a dog as an example.
Let's use a dog.
So a lot of people have dogs, right? A lot of people go into their life and they come home and there's this animal who's just like, hello, human.
Yeah.
Hello, I am here to love, right? And so then the humans go and they go, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. And so then they can use the dog as a bridge to their soul. So what I want you to do is, I don't really care what you go and do behaviorally. Go connect to dogs. Go do jump rope. Go play basketball. Like I want you to go do whatever. But in your act of doing something, that is how I want you to show up for yourself. So you come home, you connect to the dog, you say, thank you, animal, for helping me to come back home. That is your experience of being home. The relationship with the dog just helped you get there.
Got it.
But if you don't make that yours, if you don't hold on to that, if you make that about the dog, then you become reliant upon the dog for you to be connected to yourself. I want the relationship with the dog to be the icing on the cake of the beautiful relationship you have with yourself.
So you're saying show up for yourself in the manner that you want to show up for someone that you're responsible for caring for.
Say that again, sorry.
So you're suggesting for people to show up for themselves as if it's the same way that they show up for people that they're responsible for taking care of.
Yeah. So
right?
yes.
Yeah.
So
like you're not people. Okay, dog. Show up for the way that you're responsible for taking care of your dog or your sick mother or whoever. Like you want to show up for yourself in that same manner. Be there for that person instead of abandon self.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would say I would challenge everyone who is listening to this or watching this to go on, if you're single, Hinge or Tinder, or if you have a partner, and go connect to another human being in this world. And pay attention to the experience you have with this other human being, to the excitement you have, to the discomfort you have. And in that moment, I want you to imagine a circle around yourself and take ownership of the experience. It is not the other person that is bringing that up within you. They may be the bridge, but that is your experience of relationships in this world. Take ownership of that experience, connect to that experience, and let's see what happens.
Interesting.
If you make it about them, you leave yourself and you have to run away from them. Then you have to ghost. Then you have to live in a world of ghosting.
Oh, no.
Motherfucker Casper ain't doing shit for you.
Fuck yeah. And see, that's the exact type of things I wanted to talk about for people to actually apply, because there's going to be a lot of people listening to this that are going to definitely be on Hinge doing shit like that. But it's important to, I guess that answers my question. How do you leave yourself and then not show up for yourself in the world? And you mentioned something about drawing the circle. People are like, what do you mean draw a fucking circle? Well, that's you imagining a boundary, essentially.
Yes.
And how do you imagine a boundary? I think that's important, because I imagine that shit. I deal with shit. I lay in my bed, kick the fuck back.
Yeah.
I'll feel whatever I'm feeling. It's all good. And then I'll bring that shit outside of myself, essentially, and just imagine, like, all right, cool, this is my boundary. Breathe through that, and then it goes from a subjective experience of all this shit I'm dealing with, whether it's stresses, things that I have to do, things that didn't go my way, whatever it might fucking be, and then what do you do with the boundary? What's the boundary mantra? What can people say and
so
to expand
first,
upon?
before I get there, I want to comment on our imagination. Right? Imagination can be a great skill. You know, if you look at people who go into psychosis, what that is the trauma within themselves have gotten to such a point that their imagination is trying to protect themselves. And so you can use your imagination as well to bring yourself back home. So a great way to do that is literally imagine a separation, imagine a circle around yourself.
Okay.
In order to bring yourself back home, in order to separate the energy of everyone else in the world. When you do that, you could say, this is my boundary. I'm safe in my boundary. I will let you in if I want to. Take a breath. Again, use your imagination. Okay. This is my boundary. I'm safe in my boundary. I will let you in if I want to. And now take your awareness to your body. What do you experience in your body? Can you connect to the experience of having a boundary? The imagination can get you to the experience, but it is up to you to connect to the experience.
Interesting. And it's difficult for a lot of people to do that. And again, this is not. I hope that a lot of people listen to this and they start applying, things that we're talking about. But don't expect it just to be like taking a shot of tequila and all of a sudden it's like a quick fix. Like you have to get, for me at least, and I'm sure this is true for some people, you have to actually practice this until it kind of becomes normal, and then you start seeing the results of that. And then once you start seeing the results, then you kind of work harder at it and you get deeper into it. And then you gain more evidence, I guess, for how to stay. I mean, I guess for me, it was like results-based afterwards. It was like faith-based. If I had faith in the process, I wanted to listen. Then it became more faith and results-based because I started seeing things change. But it was a period of being difficult.
Yes,
like,
for sure.
What I mean? That's funky. Point is, a lot of people tap out. After at first, it's like, this is different. I don't fucking like this shit.
Because in today's age, we want a quick fix, right?
Yeah,
that's why.
For sure.
That's why when, whatever, you mentioned Hinge and Bumble and, I mean, even kicking back a drink just to take off the edge, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like in somebody's life, it's an escape.
Yeah.
Even putting on music, it's like, I need to have music on. Why do I have to have music on? Because I don't want to sit around in myself right now, and I want something to stimulate me while I'm folding my laundry, whatever that looks like.
Fair.
But where I'm at is my belief, my experience is that, the keys to the kingdom, or the thing I like to call is that the great reality is deep down within us all. And, it doesn't happen quickly. And 10 years of behavioral patterns, even longer in my life, I had to earnestly look at my operating system or the way that I was perceiving the world. And I had to take stock honestly to see what things are not serving me, and then how do we work through this.
Yes.
And it's like peeling back the the layers on an onion. Like, okay, that's gone, that's gone. You're getting closer to the core, and I think then you can really see what you're up against and what you're dealing with. But until you are ready to have that type of process and type of doing that actual work, it's work. It's not.
It is work.
This shit does not happen.
It is work
Because you watched an hour podcast and you got some tips in your life. Like, if you really want to change, it's possible.
Yes.
But like, you have to be willing to put in the work and try things differently, right? Because
and it's very doable. One of the most surprising things that I experience as being a therapist in this world is how paper thin are the walls are. Like, you wouldn't believe. You can meet someone and you go, wow, that's some intensity right there. But when you come down to it, nothing. Yes, it's painful, but you wouldn't believe how easy it is for people to navigate their pain when they allow themselves to do it. And I would like to say part of the reason why what I do is as good as it is because we don't necessarily stay in the cognitive. We live there for sure, but we don't necessarily live there strong. We dabble there. Mm-hmm. Where we go is the experience. Everybody connects to love. And if you can use humans' experience as love as their paddle down the river, then it makes the pain easier. But they have to hold on to the love, the paddle of connection and love. Mm-hmm. So I think it's doable. I think it's very doable. Well, it's difficult and scary, but doable.
It's absolutely doable. And there's a couple of things I want to close out with. And there's one major agency mantra I think is really interesting to get into. I guess we can maybe touch on too, but I really want to get to this one. This is not a fucking crisis.
Yeah, this
right?
is not a crisis.
And you say this a lot, and it sounds funny at first, but to understand what that really means, and this is my understanding of that, is that really crises are crises, whatever. I don't know, whatever. Really, that's like a natural disaster, active shooter, things like that. I mean, that's a crisis. Your body's in full flight or flight mode. But how we've started to experience the world since we were young, going back to everything you're talking about, the inner child, we've developed ways of coping that is literally a crisis, which is the same thing as if an earthquake hit. Yes. So it could be like, I have to go meet someone's parents for the first time, or I have to go to this job interview. Your body's responding that way, and a good way to respond with these anxieties and this crisis is to literally start saying, this is not a fucking crisis. This is not a crisis.
Yes.
Right?
This is not a crisis. You're exactly right. And what we talked about earlier with child development, when children develop that emotional piece, their survival is at stake. And so a lot of things in this world, our body reacts the same, as though our survival is at stake. But a crisis is really when your life is on the line. Yes, in those moments, it's a fucking crisis. Run, jump, dive,
You
duck.
feel like it's a crisis, but realistically it's not a crisis. And you starting to tell yourself that helps you deal with it more efficiently, correct?
Yes, when our life is not in danger, it is imperative for you to tell yourself this is not a crisis, so you can emotionally disconnect from whatever that thing is.
Yeah, like my life is not in danger going on a first date with a woman. You know what I mean? It's just like, but I'm fucking feeling like I'm on an airplane and it's about to crash, and a lot of people feel that way. And for me, doesn't mean that you still don't experience anxiety, but it becomes more manageable and you act differently by literally starting to say, yo, this is not a fucking crisis. I say fucking because it's one of my things, and I like saying fucking. It's great.
Yes.
It just adds some oomph to things, but it makes me understand things more, and that's important to say that.
Yes.
So
it is.
Again, tell people this is not a crisis. It's a thing to take home with them.
Yes. So why don't we do that? We'll take a couple breaths.
Yeah.
So 2 breaths into your chest, feet on the ground, soft on the exhale. Let's do 2 more.
Okay.
Take a moment, use your eyes, look around the room. Take a moment, use your eyes, look around the room. Take your awareness to your body. Connect to that aliveness and say, this is not a crisis. This is not a crisis. Give that to the aliveness within yourself. Literally send that message to wherever you experience that aliveness in your body. This is not a crisis.
It's not.
Yes. And then take note of the experience of doing that. How is that? It doesn't matter what I say. Truth speaks.
I mean, look, I think your suggestions definitely matter, but you're trying to say when you say that, it's like that's not the ultimate truth. Like
well, I'm saying that because I don't want people to get lost in me.
Got it. Okay.
In what I have to in Zach and Zach's demeanor and the breathing and all that shit. I don't want them to get lost in that.
Got it.
You know, if you're using that as a means to disconnect from where we're going, don't worry about that. It ain't about that shit. So that's why I say it doesn't matter what I say. The truth speaks. You just walk that direction, and the truth will speak. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I mean, I think, I guess in my opinion, a couple of things, a few things to take away is from this show, this particular episode, is one, there's not any one way to change your life, and it's doable, right? And it's doable in what Shane's taught me and what you've taught me. His method to get to his life of abundance is more 12-step faith, spiritual based, right? Correct, Shane?
Yeah, but can I say one thing real quick? It is because it was the only thing that worked for me, but it's also only the beginning, and it's just a foundation. Like you have to, it can't only be one thing, and it just, for me,
exactly.
I think you need to incorporate, you need to learn, you need to be inquisitive, you need to, like, also it's being conscious of what's going on. Like, okay, this worked, but how do I expand upon it? How do I get better results? I mean, you know, and part of it is being conscious, and then also having conversations with people like you, learning more, reading, talking to other like-minded individuals that have had, remarkable success in their lives, from opposed to how they used to live, or if they're just ordinary people that are stoked on life, that have a really practical, good way to live, that are wholesome, that are energetic, that are good people. And I think it's also like, you know, because you see the way that they act and the way that people are in their communities, and it speaks, you know, we could sit here and talk all day, but it's like, how are you really showing up?
Yes.
And I think if internally you're okay and you have direction and you have clarity, then it's so much easier to go out into the world and be successful. And I think that's 100%. Really it in a nutshell for me.
You can't follow your dreams in this world if you are not connected to yourself to do that. You can't.
Yeah, because I agree. Your mind will take you. It'll be zigzags, right? You'll wake up 10 years from where you started, and you'll be right where you left off, or maybe even further behind.
Yes,
I agree.
Yeah. So again, you actually just did a perfect job of explaining exactly what I wanted to touch on. There's no one way to expand upon things, but really, the root of it though is internal work. But what were you going to say?
Like that statement, I don't love that statement. And I'm not saying that the letters of whatever thing I bring to you is the one way. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but there is just one way. There is just one way. And it is through the experience within yourself.
Internally, correct.
Like, you're right. We could do different...
But people take different routes to get there.
I guess I phrased what I was saying wrong. That's what I meant, like at the root of it. Like the underlying message is still internal work. It's interesting. What you say, why I try to practice what you practice, but always foundation is what Shane teaches me through the 12-step. But like he was saying, even reading like books, like you can read a Tony Robbins book, and it's like literally the same type of thing, this internal programming of things, and taking inventory, like in a 4-step during a 12-step situation of like what no longer serves you, what doesn't, going back, fixing this, that, whatever. But it always comes back to then what you're saying is literally internal, and it's hard for people to grasp that sometimes.
It's rudimentary though, whatever it is. You know, it really is. We overcomplicate things. It's rudimentary stuff. You know, it blew my mind to really be like, are you serious right now? This is all it took to get this clarity, it's mind-blowing that it's, but I mean, you know, hopefully you don't have to get to a place as bad as I was to get there and to seek and to finally see and have results and get answers, right?
Yeah, you don't need to be doing what Shane and I did to enact change. You could literally be so much further ahead, which probably puts you a lot further ahead than us. That's what I always say to people that are younger than me.
I'm also very grateful for the process and the journey that I had.
Yeah, what do you experience your body when you say that?
I feel good. I own it.
Yeah, take a breath.
It's rewarding.
Everyone, take a breath. What a beautiful thing. When there is love in the world, when there is love within yourself, enjoy that.
Yeah, also celebrate those victories.
That's the only reason we are doing any of this. is to build a larger platform for you to live in that place. Good. Enjoy that.
Talking about living in the place of gratitude.
Yes, gratitude and love.
And I think this is exactly a perfect way to transition into how I want to close it. It's like we were talking about owning things that we could label as negative, breathing into that, but it's also good to breathe into these good things. And one of your agency mantras that I have here that I think is important is I have a right to feel good about myself without feeling narcissistic or grandiose.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have that, and they have, I mean, for me, it's just like I try to have as much humility as possible. I joke a lot, this, that, whatever, but I try to do that. But it's also not a bad thing, quote unquote, to celebrate those victories, and I think that's important as well.
Do you want to, like at the end of this, I think it would be cool to like read the good parent messages out.
Yeah.
Like just to like have humans experience.
So they can actually have it and figure out what to say to themselves.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, so can you explain a little bit more about the right to not feel bad feel narcissistic or grandiose for feeling good about yourself? I think that's important because people I used to feel bad about feeling good about myself. I'd be like, what the fuck am I feeling good for?
Yes. You know, sometimes when we like do things of power in this world, when we were young, we learned that, no, whoa, slow it down. And so then we learn those things of power get connected to you saying, no, slow it down. Stay low energetically, stay low. Don't get too big. And so we go in this world and we have successes. And sometimes the intensity of those successes becomes so much that we have to sabotage ourselves to get back to a place of whoa.
Where the energy is low.
Where the energy is low. How children know how to live is in the frequency and the level of energy our parents live in. And so we learn to live in that same kind of energy.
Interesting.
And then if we're too much, we'll go, whoa. You know, I have this good friend who was also a therapist, and she had a child, and she said how interesting it was for her. She would take her kid out to the markets, and the kid would have so much aliveness and run around and be like, hello, human being. I am also a human being.
Yeah.
And my friend had this experience inside of herself that wanted to be like, don't do that. Don't talk to people. Stay within yourself. Protect yourself. And she said, thank God she knew that if she gave that to the kid, that she would be stifling her child's aliveness. And how many of our parents just don't know? They just don't know. This is what they know how to protect themselves. So they go, I'm just going to protect my kid. They do it out of love. They do it from a place of like trying to do the best they can. But in the end, it just teaches the kid, hey, don't be too big. And so then the kid has a moment where they're like, man, I got a great shot in basketball. And they go, oof, I don't want to say that though.
Yeah.
No, own that shit. You know the difference in your body between the truth and what is not true. You know the difference in your body between things you say that are of connection and love and things that are of what they call lying up.
Lying up.
I'm the best there ever was.
But you're not.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know the difference in your body. Pay attention to what's the truth and what's not.
It's important. So again, it's not bad to feel good about yourself.
Yes. Enjoy that. Thank God. You know the difference. You do.
And you can also, again, where do you experience that in your body? And that's a good way to enjoy it. You don't have to like blab it out and be like, hey, I'm so great about this. I feel good about myself. I heard it on this podcast. I should feel good about myself. It's like, no, we're not saying to like talk about yourself like that, but you can actually.
I mean, you can though.
You can. I'm not saying only that, I guess, right? But it's like breathe into that, enjoy that actually good feeling of aliveness. I think it's important.
Yes.
Got it. Before we read that, we close out with like the agency mantras and the good parent messages. Is there anything you'd like to add, to touch on that you feel like it wasn't?
No, I feel like I, asked the questions I wanted to ask, and I've also practiced with you one time. But
I cannot confirm or deny that.
Oh, that's right.
I mean,
well,
but he said it.
Now.
Yeah, he's confirming it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't apply here, dude.
But yeah, definitely. Mine's brewing, but I'm grateful that you came out.
It's my pleasure. Thank you guys, truly.
Of course.
Thanks for letting me come out here and speak things to humans.
Of course. So I have this on here, so I'm going to read it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So let's Let's take some breaths and then you read it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So everyone, if you're not driving or running.
Oh, good call. Yes. If you're driving, do not
do what we're about to do.
Take
but
care of yourself.
Maybe do this if you are just chilling.
Yes.
How many breaths we taking? Feet planted on the floor?
Oh, what do you want? How many?
I don't fucking know, dude. You're in charge here.
Oh, I know. You want to read the messages.
We started with 5. Let's end with 5.
All right, we'll do 5.
See?
We'll do 5 charge
Democracy.
breaths into your upper chest. Soft on the exhale. As you
Wait,
breathe.
the doubles?
Use your eyes, look around. We'll just do regular.
Okay.
We'll just do regular.
Do you put your hand on your chest to feel it?
Yeah,
Is that
I do
like
it.
something that
I
I don't
always
know
do it.
about?
So
Just try it.
So
You guys are both doing? All right.
so
Forward.
the goal is to like aim high in your chest. So sometimes it helps to have something to shoot for.
Okay, I like that.
All right.
So 5. Soft on the exhale. Ready? One more. Everyone close your eyes, take a moment, allow the energy to settle within yourself. Tell yourself this is not a crisis.
This is not a
Tell yourself
crisis.
this is not a crisis.
This is not a crisis.
Make a connection to that aliveness, and as Mason reads the messages out loud, your job is to be able to give them to yourself, to direct them to the place in your body in which you experience this aliveness.
Yeah, that or pick out the one that speaks to you most so you could take that with you and repeat it to yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll start with the good parent messages to get you out of the steps of fragmentation, which you broke down. But it's essentially looking at yourself as your inner child or whatever injury that you have outside of yourself. One of them is I love you. Another one's I want you. Another one is you are special to me. And literally like, sit there and picture yourself saying this stuff. Like, yo. For example, Mason, you're special to me. It's funky to do that at first, but it's actually really empowering after you get past that discomfort to say these things.
Wait, Mason, I'm sorry, bro. I'm going to have you start over.
Okay, start over.
So the only reason I want to do that is I want you to just say them through with a boom, boom, boom,
I'll say it through with the boom, boom, boom.
But I loved what you said in terms of pay attention, for everyone out there, to pay attention to what comes up with whichever one. The ones that stand out to you are probably important on some level. The ones that are uncomfortable and stand out, it may be uncomfortable or it may be good. If it's good, great, give it to yourself. If it's uncomfortable, great, give it to yourself.
So
we're going to take, if it's cool, 3 more breaths,
okay.
and then I want you to do it. 3
Got
breaths. One more. Take a moment. And for everyone out there, close your eyes and keep them closed as Mason just reads them through.
So the first good parent message would be I love you. The second one, I want you. The next, you are special to me. Fourth, it's not what you do, but who you are that I love. The next is I'll be there for you. I'll be there even when you die. 6 is I love you and give you permission to be different from me. 7, it's not who you are, but what, okay, I think that was a repeat. So the next one is sometimes I will say no, and that's because I love you. 9 is you don't have to be alone anymore. 10 is you don't have to be afraid anymore. 11, I accept and cherish your love. 12, my love will make you well. 13, I'll take care of you. 14, you can trust me. 15, you can trust your inner voice. And again, those are all the good parenting messages from the steps out of fragmentation.
Yeah.
So the agency mantras, or the lies that essentially we're telling ourselves that's making us leave ourselves, correct? That's what this would be to fix those lies we tell ourselves would be these following mantras, correct?
Yes, those are essentially the feeling tones, that the energy behind the messages is the healing thing.
Behind what we just said.
Yes, I love you.
Yeah.
It is not the words fully, but also the aliveness.
Yeah, it's not, don't say, hey, love you. You know what I mean? Don't say it like that, but like literally, like mean it.
Yeah, you could tell the difference, where, we can all, but especially a child, can tell the difference between someone who says, I love you, versus someone who says, I love you. You can tell the difference.
I agree with that. I could tell different. I mean, yeah. So these agency mantras, these things are important. And again, this is essentially back to this is not a crisis.
I mean, you don't have to read all those if you don't want.
I mean, I think it's good.
Okay,
so
cool. Yeah. Get it, Mason. Get it.
So the first agency mantra is, and this was important, I think this is why it's number one, is I'm not bad and I haven't done anything wrong. Love that one. I'm not bad because I couldn't fix my mother, father, sister, brother, boyfriend, girlfriend, and I'm not bad because I can't fix my current agency target, whoever it may be. Yes. So that's essentially saying because I wasn't able to do this in the past and I didn't do that with this person in the present, it doesn't make me bad. Yeah. That's how I understand it. 3, I am not selfish when I think of myself or act on my own behalf. I have a right to my own body and body voice in my own volition and to now think what I want and to say so. I had something circled, so it kind of made it difficult for me to do that. But yeah, you're not selfish to really think of it. I mean, it is selfish, but it's not badly selfish. You know what I mean? Again, I think it's the best thing is to be selfish, to be selfless. So I think selfish can be a good thing.
I mean, it's that airplane thing they always talk about. Yeah. Give yourself oxygen so you can give your child oxygen.
Exactly. Love that. 5 is, and we got into this one, when I take responsibility for the well-being of others, I invade and cripple them. I undermine those I try to fix as well as myself. So again, we're not responsible for others, even though it's a noble thing to want to do. Yes. It ultimately goes back to giving yourself the oxygen first to be able to help other people instead of giving them oxygen as you're trying. I mean, giving yourself. I'm getting away from the point, but I think I had it right at first before I said more words. Let's see. Agency is just a habit that I no longer have to continue. And again, that's separating yourself from yourself.
Yes.
That would be that. You don't need to continue those habits. You can literally say it's doable. I can stop this right now.
Yes.
Great. 7, I will not abandon myself when I most need my own support. So whatever it is that we do to get outside of ourselves the most, when that discomfort comes up, breathe into that type of stuff and don't abandon yourself is how I understand that. Got it. 8, I don't have power over, control of, or responsibility for other people's lives. I was taught I had these powers. This is a lie I now tell myself.
Ooh, that one's got some power to it.
That one's a little spicy.
Yeah, it's great.
It is pretty great. And it's important.
Yes.
Because again, now a lot of people think that they have a responsibility for other people's lives. Everyone's locked down and you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And again, anything we say you should be doing on this show ever is merely a suggestion. We don't think we have all the answers. We just have some experiences that work for us, and either you believe that we're about what we say, or we're full of shit, and that's up to you. You know what I mean? So don't think that like we're coming at you with the answers. We just have some useful suggestions. Fair to say?
Yeah, our only aim is to be helpful.
Only aim is to be helpful, people. We're not better than anyone, and we don't think we know more. We're just sharing good information. 9, I need not depend on others.
Unless we're talking about my style, but that's what's up with
It's terrible. Just kidding, it's not. I need not depend on others nor wait for them in order to do my life. So I don't need to wait for others to do other things so I can be happy and do my own shit. Like I can rock no matter what happens with other people. Yes. That's essentially how I understand that. 10, this is not a crisis. Only my agency habit makes me think so. That's my favorite because this shit is not a crisis. Even things we think are crises are not crises. That's that. 11, we got to the right to feel good about myself. So we'll go to 12. I have a right to my own soul, my own personal communication with God, even if others disagree. So you have a right to your internal being, however that may look, no matter what other people fucking think. Yeah. Is that a good way to package that? Definitely. I'm hitting the targets here. 13, second to last. I know in my body the difference between an act of caring and an act of agency. So within yourself, as you said, you know what's bullshit and you know what's not bullshit. That's how I take that one. Got it. And last but not least, the end of agency is not the end of love. It is the beginning. So that is essentially that agency and the way we programmed ourselves to, I guess I call it lie. It's really us reprogramming ourselves. It's not the end of something. It's the beginning of something better. Yeah. Fucking fantastic. I hit the nails on the head.
I want to say one more thing about like all this stuff. You know, I'm very, as Mason was reading that, I'm very grateful for like the people who I have gained all of this from. And like, I want to say thank you to, the people whose shoulders I'm able to stand on in the work that I've been able to do. And now what it feels like to a degree, take this mantle. And I feel very lucky. I feel very lucky for that. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you guys because then I know things because of him now. It's great. Yeah. And I thank these two people next to me. We really didn't get into more of the 12-step related things, but it's these two things, 12-step based type of self-improvement, and then your methods have changed my life in ways that I've never been able to, I guess, achieve before. And so I can only wish that people could absorb like a tenth of what I've absorbed and put that to use, because it can actually make a difference in the world. It's possible.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
And that's that.
Both of you.
Beautiful,
Thank you.
of course. Thank you.
Really.